Elon Musk lashing out on Tuesday against the far-reaching Republican bill, the great big beautiful bill, intended to enact President Trump's domestic policy agenda, posting on X that it was, and he hasn't held back, a disgusting abomination, and telling Republican House members who voted for it, you know you did wrong. Tech billionaire who was, remember, the biggest political donor in the last presidential cycle, donating millions and millions of dollars in order to help elect Donald Trump, said that in a series of about 10 posts, he criticized the bill. In them, he also reshared commentary from critical Republican lawmakers like Senators Rand Paul of Kentucky and Mike Lee of Utah, two Republicans who sided with him in opposing the rate increases in the U.S. deficit. I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore, Musk wrote on X, saying it was massive, outrageous, pork-filled, i.e., not actually literally pork-filled, sort of, pig-related products, American term for pork-barreled spending, sort of investing and wasting money. Congress is making America bankrupt. It is worth saying this big, beautiful bill is very big and perhaps not so beautiful. It is going to raise the American debt by about $4 trillion over the next 10 years through a combination of spending cuts, yes, but big, big tax decreases. We've never seen anything quite like it before. Remember when the Republicans were the party of fiscal responsibility? Let's talk now to Bruce Daisley, former European Vice President of Twitter, former UK Managing Director of YouTube. Bruce, thanks so much for joining us. We've spoken a few times on the news agents on LBC since the kind of blossoming of the Musk-Trump relationship. We speculated many times on how and when it might come to an end. Are you surprised it's come to an end in a way like this?
Well, I guess at the start of the year, a lot of us were wondering how long would it last. Both of them have got a track record of falling out with people quite spectacularly, and both have got extremely pronounced main character energy. So the strong
There's another
feeling
energy I
was,
think they've got as well, but we won't talk about that.
The strong feeling was that either Musk was going to have to doff his cap and fit in with the Trump show, or there might be something that went awry. The actual regime, the Doge program that they implemented, seemed like a lot of bluster, a lot of drama. There were those, you'll remember, there were those weekly emails to employees saying, you need to tell us what you've been up to. A lot of people were fired. I think probably the most material change was the defunding of USAID, the US Overseas Aid Initiative. And that's been the most material in the sense that was all cancelled. I think I saw one estimate from someone at a university in Boston saying that's already contributed to 300,000 children in the developing world dying. So he's definitely had an impact, but I'm not sure if he's transformed government in the way he was promising us.
Well, I mean, what's notable, Bruce, is that obviously this comes in the context of his departing, his brief tenure working for, in effect, the federal government, heading up Doge, as you say, pretty unsuccessful as a set of efforts go. He said he would reduce the US spending, federal spending, by $2 trillion. He's managed about $160 billion, a tiny fraction of that. And as you say, mainly done that by just going in, bulldozing a whole load of programs, which themselves have had all sorts of very unpleasant consequences. But nonetheless, that's what he's done. He seems to have now almost instantly taken to his liberation by criticizing the Trump presidency and what it's doing.
Yeah, it's worth saying the New York Times even questions that $160 million. They say that effectively the mop-up of having to pay settlements and having to resolve motivation issues with some employees is going to wipe out that whole gain. So most definitely, it's also had a material impact on his own wealth.
Yes,
albeit that Tesla stock has bounced back to some extent. Tesla stock is still today above where it was before the election. His own wealth has diminished. At times he was down at about 40% on.
Well, that's why he went back,
worth.
isn't it? I mean, that's basically why he went back. He ended up basically in a situation where Tesla, the Tesla board, Tesla shareholders were saying this is intolerable. He's so distracted by what's going on. He's getting involved in all sorts of in political controversies, and that was affecting Tesla's share price because increasingly the sort of liberals who bought Teslas didn't want to go anywhere near them.
Absolutely. Well, fundamentally, the heart of any marketing campaign, the heart of any brand positioning is the first thing that a marketer says to themselves is they say, who is the product for? Who are we targeting at? And the challenge he's got with Tesla now is that the people who typically were the purchasers of it before, the wokerati, people who fancied an EV car to drive around in, suddenly now have been completely alienated by him and no longer want to have anything to do with him. So he's got a marketing challenge. I think pretty much every territory around the world has seen a decline in Tesla sales. So exactly right. It's had an impact not only on his own reputation, but on the reputation of his companies. And I think the challenge for him right now, he's exhibited for a long time. Anyone who's ever had people in their family or friendship groups have witnessed addiction issues might say that there's something in his behavior that has echoes of that. And certainly the New York Times last week reported that maybe his own recreational drug usage is more than what was previously claimed. But he certainly manifests in that way. He turned up at the White House last Friday to receive not only his latch key to get him into the White House anytime he wanted, but he had a black eye for that. And certainly he presents right now as someone who's living right in the middle of a chaotic life.
Yes. Do you think, though, I mean, there are some people speculating, well, maybe he doesn't mean it, or at least maybe actually relations, you mentioned the latchkey, maybe relations between the White House and him are better than they might appear, that maybe he's doing it for commercial reasons, precisely as you say, to try and kind of put some distance, but really, actually, relations will remain good. Do you think it's that considered?
Well, certainly, if projects like the Golden Dome come to fruition, the Golden Dome is based on SpaceX technology. SpaceX at the moment still remains a private company, but some of its assets like Starlink are most definitely going to be worth a lot of money under the Trump regime. There's a lot of contracts going his way. So it could well be that he's done whatever he needs for his business interests, and now he's going off to focus on those interests. But I think overall, he's gone in the last 5 years from being probably one of the most respected, one of the most celebrated business people in the world, to someone who cuts a slightly tragic figure, someone who almost looks comic in terms of his missteps and his actions. So, look, I think in total, it hasn't been a great episode, a great endeavor venturing into politics for Elon Musk.
Do you think that he's part of this, at least? I mean, maybe there are more exotic reasons that you've alluded to, but is part of it that he has woken up to a fact that you would think, given his reputed level of intelligence, would have been staring him in the face all along, which was the truth is, in many ways, the interests, the strategic interest, the commercial interest, though there was some dovetailing, and indeed Musk will probably have done very well in terms of federal contracts and so on, some of which you allude to. But their political interests were always not especially aligned. I mean, look at the tariff policy. Musk imports huge number of components and products, does a lot of manufacturing in China, completely at variance with the way that the Trump policy has gone. Immigration, he's been very pro-immigration, bringing people in, particularly people of skills and people he might need in his business. Again, completely at variance with where Trump has gone. He himself is a fiscal conservative, as is being exposed at the moment. Trump is anything but in reality, even if he pays lip service to it. It's like he's just suddenly woken up and realised that, hang on a minute, maybe this guy's interests and my interests aren't that aligned, and they never were.
Well, certainly it makes what's to come seem most interesting. The one thing that we know from Elon Musk is that broadly in the course of his movement into being interested in politics, he's never been able to sit on his hands. There's times where you would advise him, if you were the friendly voice in his ear, you'd say, Elon, just put your phone down for a couple of days. And he's really struggled to step away from the timeline, to step away from saying these things. So it does raise the question now, if we're entering an era where he is going to be more open in his criticism of Trump, and he has been pretty brazen in the past of adapting the algorithm on his products to favor the people that he likes. It does beg the question, where do we go from here? Will he, by the end of the 12 months, will he be in an open battle with Trump? Will he be openly sort of weaponizing his platform against Trump in the midterms? It's interesting where we go from here, or if he can take a step away from the drama he's embroiled himself with.